One of my favorite things that I ever heard from my office manager was at the end of a busy day, and everybody just kind of laughing as they're kind of cleaning everything up. And she goes, "Oh, go home, friends. Be happy." And I looked at her and I just smiled and I said, "I'm going to write that down. That was amazing." That's what we want our employees to do. We want them to go home and be happy.
All right, I think this is this is the fourth time he's been on. I think it is. He's almost a member of like the five timers club, right?
Oh yeah,
of just a couple dentists.
You get a jacket.
I know. He came on in the beginning.
No, maybe a headband. We'll give you a headband.
Yeah. You can get a headband, Spencer. What kind do you want?
Hey, I think that I'm not going to grow out the beard, but I'm going to grow out the mustache and have the headband, and we're going to be a really good duo.
Oh, nice.
Wait,
as long as it's got to be a handlebar. Yeah,
kick me out.
I know.
Thanks.
Alex is not a part of this. That's just how it works.
I guess so.
No, I think this is episode 5 for us, guys.
Is it?
Yeah.
I have to look at that.
I don't know.
Because we had a few, and then I coached
because
you
we did
for a
that
few.
therapy session in between too at some point with me, which that actually worked. That did work. And I will say, so for all of our listeners, if you guys haven't heard, we've had Spencer on several times before, and a few months ago, or it's probably been more than a few months ago, we had him on and we were talking about producing more, right? As like the dentist. And I was telling him kind of the struggles I was having on kind of my production just going down and not being where it wanted to be. And I implemented some of the things he said it was like July of last year. So yeah, it's been like 6 months or so. And it worked. And then I kind of kept that going, and then I kind of dipped down on it a little bit. I was like, my production's going down. And then this last month, 2 reasons. I was forced into having to come back a little bit more clinical than I wanted to. And I was like, well, I got to produce more too. And so I went back. I did apply some of your systems and things you said, and my production like jumped up again. So I guess the point of all that is when you get good advice, don't do it for like a few months and then trickle it down. Just make it a part of your like habit moving forward. Because when I did it, it helped a ton. So,
well, isn't that the case always when we're teaching our team of what to do, and then they do it for a little bit and then they forget, and then we have to reteach them? And so it's the same for us too. What about your kids?
Story of my life.
You know?
Yeah, that's like Alex. Yeah, story
Alex
of her
is
life.
always trying to
I'm on like
retrain out
constant
Eric.
repeat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so we figured maybe we could frame this episode today still on the topic of like producing more, but instead of it just being about producing more as you as the dentist, it's what a high producing practice does, right? Spencer's got a big office up in Washington, and we figured we could kind of share some of the things he does maybe on a bigger or broader level that just doesn't affect the dentist, but for anyone who's ever looking to buy a practice or has a practice or just wants to know how to improve that. And so we just wanted to dive into a few things that, are kind of more topical of mind right now, either for us personally or that Spencer's dealing with, and kind of just go through and spitball on the different things that you need to do to make your practice more profitable.
Yeah, having 2 practices has taught me that of something of on-site managing and then off-site managing. They're so different. They're absolutely different beasts that we have to tackle. And yeah, I had to learn the hard way. And some people didn't like my type of management when I was off-site. And so I learned, I may have lost a few employees because of the mistakes that I made, but isn't that how we learn? Is we just fail and we learn and we recover. So on-site is absolutely going to be your most crucial way of increasing your production. And now off-site, obviously, we can always have an influence, but it's not going to be nearly as much as if we're present. So fortunately, I've learned how to do both of them, and do both of them effectively to where both of my practices now are completely on their own. I don't have to go in. Usually if I go in, it's for less than 2 hours. And so these things can happen even while you're not there.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about that. Like, tell us about because I think everyone wants to know, like, hey, what did you fail at, right? And how did you adjust? And then what are you doing now?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure everybody wants to know that. So let me satisfy everybody right now.
Yes.
So one of the main things is when you see something from afar, don't come to conclusions that you know the whole story, and teach the lesson before you know exactly what's going on. So, for example, you see something on the schedule to where somebody got mad because they waited too long, and then you come in and you say, hey, why did you make them wait so long? They left a 1-star Google review. They didn't accept treatment, and you guys were too busy, right? You weren't there. You don't know exactly how things went. And so just because you see things on the schedule doesn't mean that you have the whole story. So sometimes I would be in sometimes I would be in practice number 2, looking at practice number 1 and saying, okay, I see this. And so I would go on to Open Dental. I would add a note into the schedule so that everybody who's there that day could be looking and is like my form of communication with them. And I said, make sure that this no longer happens, or make sure that, I would communicate in that way. And that would really turn off people. That would just
I
really.
was going to say that's like how I would do it with like micromanaging. It's like you're in every little detail.
Yeah.
Effective to a
and
point.
take a look at it as not micromanaging. Look at it as if you did that once a week, right? That wouldn't really be seen as micromanaging
Sure.
the way that we look at it. However, it is the same concept or principle of what we're doing. And we're so out of touch with the actual situation. Rewind a few years before, where I had somebody that I worked with who was not on site, and I was the one going through every single day. I was going through the communication with the patient, with the actual treatment, and there's a whole lot of stress to it. And so when he would be doing his own thing and looking from a bird's eye view and then telling me what I should have done, I was like, no, like, you don't know what happened. You don't know the situation or the patient. This was a very unique patient, right? We all know exactly how that feels. Every day is so not a given. Just depending on the personalities, the financial situations, the actual tooth situation. So that was a big thing where I had to realize, just like, okay, calm down, quiet down, find out more of the story before you say anything, right? It's just like in sales, just letting them talk and not interrupting. The same thing with me with managing. Okay, find out the story. Don't jump to anything. Don't pounce on anything like you're ready to answer the question. So that was a really big thing that was important for me to learn.
That's a challenge, I think. I think that's a challenge for my personality, because I think it's like an easily excitable personality. So even if you weren't complaining, not interrupting doesn't come from a place of like not listening to you. It's more like, oh, I'm excited. I want to say my part, right? So I agree. And I feel like, so for me, I always struggled with that. But then you're right. Then the team looks at it and they're like, they're not even really listening to what I have to say, or they're trying to solve it for me, right? It's like the age old thing with like men and women, right? Like, Alex and I will talk, and I think as men a lot, we want to just solve problems right away, right? Like first thing, like before they're even finished with the problem, it's like, let me solve this, right? Oh, she's giving me a weird look. And sometimes, some people just want to be heard or listened to, right? And so they want to just explain what's going on. You acknowledge it, and then maybe you guys solve what it is, versus, like you said in your situation, like you didn't know the whole situation. You're already trying to solve it for them or telling them not to do it. I don't know. That's my...
I'm 100% on board with you. I really want to do it, and I still do it. When I'm talking to somebody, I will interrupt them mid-sentence because I'm like, I've got the solution, right? Mm-hmm. But as if I take myself out of body and just look at the situation, I always tell myself, I probably shouldn't do that, right? Even though I feel like I've got the answer. Here's my situation a lot of the times, though. I get so excited about the thought that comes to my head and then nervous that it's going to leave. So I feel like I really want to say it because it's just like, this could be a fleeting thing and I want to take advantage of it, right? How often are we just like, I've got a great idea, but we didn't write it down. So then we're like, what's that? What was that great idea?
That's exactly what I do all the time. That is exactly what goes through my head is I'm like, I am going to forget this in 5 seconds, and this is going to be really awesome to share. I have to share it now. Why, Alex? Does that not go through?
No.
No, that doesn't. Is that
No,
so
I'll think of it. Like, I'll pretty much someone comes to me with a problem or whatever. Halfway through, I'm like, I already know the system how to fix this. And it's like, hey, I'll save you the time. I don't need to hear the rest of it. Let me just solve it for you. And then I can get on with my day. You can get on with your day. And I made this really efficient.
No,
That's
I'm there
where
with
I
you.
come from.
I'm right there with you.
Which is not good either. Because
like if you have to look back, right? And
then everyone relies on me, which is not good. And it doesn't empower anyone to make their own decision and learn and do their own
thing. Okay, so if
thing.
you had to look back, though, and say what you would change, and we're just talking dental practices, right? Mm-hmm. As being the owner and the leader in the practice, right? With like a startup, that's what you are. You're wearing all the hats. What would you have changed in your leadership or management style?
I mean, in the beginning, nothing, because obviously I needed to learn.
That's an What an Alex answer.
No, I needed to learn everything for me.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't know it, how am I supposed to teach anything?
You.
So, very selfish in the beginning. Fine. But later, I definitely should have probably taken a step back and been like, I need you in this leadership role so I don't have to do it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I should say the next thing I say, or if I should be quiet. No, I would say the one criticism that I would hear, because it's weird, right? When like you're married and you're both dentists, you find out and we're not working together, but still in the same office. We've had before where
What office? What do you mean?
We're like a Columbine. I was working there sometimes when you were, or when we were in Newport, right? What ends up happening is, we've talked about it before, there kind of has to be one clear leader, because we both kind of would do it with some instances, and because I tend to be more like nice cop and she's more bad cop, right, with stuff, because you just hold people more accountable, which is, you could argue long-term way better, and I'm more of the pushover, is they would kind of come to me for stuff because they knew they would get a different answer from Alex that they probably didn't want to hear if they didn't want to be held accountable. But I would say the one thing that I had heard was when you would give people like instructions on a how-to, right? Like, this is what you knew, the system, you knew all that kind of stuff, and you would tell them, hey, this is how you need to do it. I think sometimes you had the expectation that like you could tell them, and then you were just like, you can do it, so now do it, instead of having to like reiterate it like 6 or 7 times, right?
Because it's written down though, so just
I know.
Read it again.
Yeah, I know. I think
I have a high bar.
Are you talking about a manual, like an office manual,
like an SOP or a manual?
Whatever it is. It's like how to do this certain task or whatever.
That's a good talking point too. Is if we've written something down on an SOP or an office manual, and then we're frustrated by the team, like, oh my gosh, that's written down. That just shows you that just because they read it once doesn't mean that it's going to be ingrained into them, right? And so how often should we go over those things in a meeting? I have a list of about 14, the acronym for my office is MCD. So I've got the MCD protocols, and we reread them pretty frequently, probably at least 3 times a year in our team meetings. And even though it can seem very repetitive, what if there's one thing that one person is just like, oh man, I totally lost track on that? That's really important for us to produce higher and to have less frustrations as owners, right? As you guys were talking, it just made me think, we all have these abilities to lead. Let's talk about us natural leaders, okay? We all have the ability to lead, but just because we can doesn't mean that we're doing it the right way. So how can we package what is good and try to turn that, like, let's say, for example, you come up with answers really easily. That's a really good trait as a leader. And so how are we going to package that in a very effective way, right? Just because we're good at something doesn't always mean that it's effective. And so, you as a leader with, let's say, moody women, and let's say they're in a moody time, and they're very sensitive, they're very kind, right? So how is that going to be packaged in an effective way to lead those types of people? Just because they're that way doesn't make it wrong. It's just we have to incorporate. Imagine one of those people coming to us and being like, I really don't like employee X over there. What you would tell them is, well, you've got to learn how to mix your personality with their personality. We've got to look at it from the same perspective and a leadership standpoint, right? Is that making sense?
Yeah, I think it does. Like when you look at the best coaches too, right, in other sports, I think maybe it was Popovich that had said it, that like he understood each of his players and he knew he had to do a different type of, not necessarily maybe like a whole coaching style and change stuff, but he had to tweak things based on the individual because he knew that this person responds this way, this person responds this way, and that just takes time and getting to know people, right? But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you got to treat. I mean, if you think about it conceptually, yeah, you got to treat everyone's an individual. You kind of have to treat them at some point like an individual, right? Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Here's a great exercise for every dental business owner: is write down a list of all your employees and write down what is the most important thing to this person. And so
Yeah.
here's some examples of my employees. This person really needs flexibility so that she can go to classes because she wants to be a dentist someday. So if I'm flexible with, how her schedule looks, then I will make that her priority and ask for things for her to compensate in different ways because I'm giving her her priority. Let's talk about another one. She really wants to make sure that she gets her lunch every single day. So even if I'm willing to work through my lunch, she wants at least her 30-minute break. Great. I can't compete with that. I can't argue with that. I've got to respect it and say, okay, that is super paramount for me to keep my eye on every single day for my assistants to stagger their lunches, and I will ensure that my assistant lead knows that we need to make sure that everyone gets a lunch. What's another example is this person really wants to make sure that we start on time. She hates it when we allow other people just to trickle in during morning huddle. Great, I'm going to address it with a team so I can make sure that this person is satisfied with our standards for timeliness, right? So if we go through those types of things and we see these are the very top one priority of each employee, we'll start to see things from a different light as a leader, and we'll start to lead them so that they all are on board with us as their dentist, as their boss, as their leader, whatever it is, right? And they're going to jump on board. And so when we're like, hey, I want to do this today, I want to double our production, I want to keep this, because we have given them, they see our priorities and they're going to prioritize them with us.
If you like our podcast, check out Alex's newsletter, Just 2 Minutes. It's full of great advice, which makes sense considering it's her thoughts and not me sidetracking her every 2 seconds. You can subscribe at coupleofdentists.com. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to the pod.
So is this observational for you, or are you asking them what your priority is?
It's observational after time, right?
But what's is an easier way possibly if you got a practice, you're like, yeah, this sounds really cool, I'm not doing it. Would it literally just be either when you do a one-on-one with someone, or you just take a little bit of time with someone and say, hey, I want to help be a better leader here. I want to know what really matters to you. Like, what's the most important thing to you that like is a non-negotiable?
Yeah, I don't think that that's going to come up. I don't think that they're going to know, because some things you don't know until you experience it.
Yeah.
And so when an employee comes to you a year later and she's just like, I'm getting so burnt out because you're not letting me take my lunches, and I really just want to be able to have a reset time. Whoa, I didn't realize that until 12 months later. So if you've been employing somebody for 18 months, you've probably heard them come to you with something. Maybe hey doc, can I talk to you about something? Sure, what is it? That other employee really does X. And you're like, oh, that's something very important for this person's observation. And so it's through going through the motions. If I hire a new employee, I'm just like, what's really important to you? They're not going to know because they're not really into my system yet. They haven't been integrated with my team yet. And so therefore, they're not going to know what's important until actually like the systems happen, the routines occur, and finally they're just like, okay, I see how the rhythm is. I have something that I just really need to alter a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So different than like big picture. What's your goal? Where do you want to be in 3-5 years or whatever? We're not talking about that stuff. It's the small things that just like make the day better for
To
that
make
person.
the day better. You got it. Yeah. What is going to make your day good so that you go home happy? One of my favorite things that I ever heard from my office manager was at the end of a busy day, And everybody just kind of laughing as they're kind of cleaning everything up. And she goes, "Oh, go home, friends. Be happy." And I looked at her and I just smiled and I said, "I'm going to write that down. That was amazing." Because that's what we want our I was going to say patients. That's what we want our employees to do. We want them to go home and be happy. We don't want them to vent to their significant other about work. We don't want them to stress about interactions that they're going to have with their team members. We just want them to go home and forget work. Just like when they come to work, we want them to forget home. Just let's be present, right? Let's just have a great day. And so if you focus on having everybody having a great day, having their day go better, then they're going to help you to do the same. And you're going to have these days which are going to be busy, but not crazy. We've all experienced crazy, right? Whoa, today was crazy. This patient after that patient, that filling turned into a root canal, right? How about if we're just super busy, but we're all smiling along the whole way? Our cortisol's staying low. Things are jolly. We're singing, right? That's where we say, let's be busy, not crazy. And so if you listen to the little things that your team needs, you're going to get a lot more of those days.
Are you doing any like disc assessments on your team members?
Yeah, but I don't really incorporate them too much because that's not really my strong suit of placing those into each person. I mean, most people, I don't know exactly which assessment this was, but only me and one guy assistant who I was telling you guys about before, he and I were both yellow and everybody else was, call it blue. And so I'm like, oh, easy. Everybody, I could just kind of manage the same. So I don't really put too much into those disc assessments, even though I did invest into them.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I know.
Well, yeah, we have some thoughts on those type of assessments. I don't think they're fun. Like obviously like cool, I can categorize myself as this and
Everyone
that.
likes taking a quiz,
So
right?
yeah, that's always fun. And I think as like the leader, the founder, the entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, like it doesn't matter what you are. You have to do everything. Who cares, right? But for team members, for someone that's just an employee, I don't know if that gives any additional insight into like, oh, they work like this. They're better if, like different love languages. It's like they're better if they just, get this part of it. And it's like, oh, that's how I need to communicate to them. I don't know.
I mean,
don't know
I
if
would
that-
argue,
if that
yeah.
helps.
I would say last thing on this would be, it makes sense too, because if team members, if you're able as the leader to know what is important to the team member through observation, right? That takes intelligence, that takes like actually paying attention. If you do that and your employee is like, holy crap, they know that about me and I didn't have to tell them, then they feel like they're being heard. They feel like they would feel more
Acknowledged,
important, right?
yeah,
Acknowledged.
yeah.
It's just like with gift giving, right? Like, and I was gonna transition this into bonus stuff,
Yeah,
Spencer, because we've tried like every freaking bonus under the sun and it never really works well, right? Because like you were alluding to, like some people like lunches, some people like money, some people like to just be happy all the time at work, but the bonus is like a money thing, right? At least that's how we've always tied a bonus to money,
Cash, yeah.
right? And so that's always been a challenge. But going back to the whole like gift giving thing, is I found that the best things I've done for team members, if the goal is for them to feel like acknowledged or to be happy or to have an impact, right, is when they're like just because gifts, right? Like if I heard an employee say something about, oh, this is their favorite Starbucks drinks, right? But they didn't tell me. But if we were getting Starbucks for everyone and you like got that specific drink, they'd be like, oh, they knew that about me. Like when I was trying to date Alex and convince her to like me, right? In dental school, I remember there was like a certain drink that you would always order at the bar. And I remember one time I just ordered it for you, and I think that worked pretty well. Well, maybe, but you know what I mean, Spencer? Like it's that observing. And I think that's a really important thing. Is like a takeaway for this lesson is just doing that, because it does make a big difference.
Yeah, and it's okay if it shifts over time and you learn more about that person. You're like, oh, okay, I need to alter what their number one priority is, because experience will be the greatest teacher. Now for bonuses, I have incorporated a bonus. I have taken away the bonus a few times because, ooh, I'm mad. Ooh, you're being mean, so I'm going to take it back from you, right? And that created some super awkwardness,
Yeah.
some resentment. I that became the B word, right? My wife and I would be like, "Oh, the B word," right? We did not like talking about the bonus
Yeah.
because it created a lot of resentment. And then one day, I finally realized, okay, I'm a highly productive dentist. I run 2 highly productive offices, and I built them upon the bonus. Like that is a huge part of my foundation. And so then I committed to everybody. I said, the bonus is back, and it is back forever. As long as I am the sole owner of these practices, we will always have a bonus, and I'm never going to take it away. And the reason that I did that was just to give them certainty and a breath of fresh air, like, is he going to take it away again? And so it's been good. It's been really good. I have 2 aspects of my bonus. Well, more because I bonus my hygienist as well, so I'll ignore that portion for now. My 2 aspects of the bonus are first on production. If we hit a certain level of production, you automatically bonus this amount. Boom. If you worked full hours this past month, you get the full bonus at this level. Boom. The second is overhead. All right. Staff overhead specifically. I want our staff overhead to be below X percent. And I'm not going to declare what that percent is here. Every dentist can come up with their own. It must be below this percent. And if we're under that, you all get to share the surplus until we meet the difference to that percent. So therefore, if we're pushing at the end of a quarter and we're just like, man, we can produce 20K more today if this patient accepts this full mouth extraction with 4 implants or whatever, and everybody is on board and they're not like, oh, doctor wants to keep more production. Oh, I might be an hour late if I go home. Oh, this is just gonna. No, they're like, sweet, because they know that there's gonna be more for everybody if we do that. And so that's really gotten me buy-in, but it's taken years to get here. And it's taken pain to get here because not everybody goes into the bonus well. Not everybody thanks you for the bonus. Actually, most people don't thank you for the bonus. And, newsflash, everybody forgets that they got a bonus within a couple days. Everybody forgets when you bring them that special Starbucks drink. It just takes a little bit. And so if you're doing it in order to get a certain reaction, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But if you're doing it to just kind of say, this is what my culture will be built on, my culture will be built on random Starbucks drinks. Great. Do it because that's what you want to do, not because you want something out of it, because it won't last. It's a Band-Aid for something.
Yeah.
Right? And you shouldn't expect thank yous. Thank yous should be pleasant surprises where you're just like, okay, great. But you shouldn't be like, oh, this person's ungrateful. It's really important for us to always just have that mentality of I'm doing a bonus because I have this goal for myself and for my office, and everybody's going to benefit from it. I'm not looking for thank yous. I'm not looking for, anything extra from them, but I do like my employees. I want them to have the best experience here, and this bonus is going to serve into that. And then if they quit or if they turn, negative on you and you have to fire them, then you just have to push that aside. Like, okay, I gave them a lot of extra money, but it is what it is, and I've got to move on from that. Emotionally untying ourselves from that bonus system is a very difficult thing to do, but it has been so healthy for me to do, to finally
Yeah,
dissociate emotionally.
that's a good point because I feel like I was guilty of that, right? Like you have these expectations of like I'm giving you, right, as the owner, you almost come up with the mindset of like I'm giving you my extra money, right? Like if you're thinking of it that way, like
Right.
this is extra and you're not grateful, like that's coming out of my pocket, right? It becomes this like zero sum game in your head.
Yeah.
And I think that is pretty negative then, right? Because then you start to build resentment, right? And every time someone doesn't thank you, then you're like, well, now you're like, now I don't like this employee as much. I like this other employee because they say thank you every time and they're appreciative. See, like I'm gonna help them out versus untying yourself.
I never expected a thank you.
Yeah,
But
you don't.
I know
yeah,
I have no emotions
yeah,
with any of this stuff, but I did hate it when no, because it should be a win-win. Office makes more money, you make more money. Like why is there an emotion in that? It's all dollars, right?
Yeah.
It's like that helps me, it helps you. We should all be happy. But it's when they get mad because they didn't hit it and now it's somehow my fault or
Exactly.
someone else.
Or it's like an expectation.
Well, it's an expectation. And or if it's like, oh, now this is too hard. So that I get the complaint of that. And now it's that person didn't pull their weight. Why are they getting the same bonus as someone else, as all of us,
Exactly.
And so there's these little things.
So how Spencer,
every
how did
bonus
you
that we put out, we have to understand that there's going to be negative sides to it. It's never going to be a huge absolute win. What were you asking?
So how do you deal with that then, right? Like, or do you just say, I'm going to deal with this? Or
with fire and furor? No, just kidding. How do I deal with it? You just gotta deal with it, on a what's it called?
Case by case.
Case by case. That's exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I mean, will you go then to an employee if you're like, man, like I just feel like they're turning this bonus into something toxic, right? It's not what it was meant to be, which is
Absolutely.
supposed to either increase production for the practice or increase a better culture for the practice. It's kind of like becoming negative. Do you try to talk with that person and just say, hey, I'm just trying to understand, the goal of this isn't to be negative, but like, I'm just trying to understand where your negative feelings with his bonus is coming from.
100%. I do address it with them, and usually if they're going to be consistently negative about it, then they're not going to last in my system. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
I think it kind of like self-selects people out.
Yeah, do you feel like that? And I feel like all of us want to do this, and I feel like some are way better at it, but I feel like this is something all of us know deep down inside, right? Is the whole like fire fast, hire slow. And I feel like if we could all look back, and I could look back at stuff, anytime I've had an employee where I started to have that thought of like, I don't think they're going to work out, it's just a matter of time before they leave or I kind of force them out or they're not there anymore. I have not had a lot of experiences, and maybe it's just me where, my gut reaction after like a month was like, I don't think this person's going to work. And they had some big turnaround and, I fixed them and now they're this amazing person. I haven't had that happen a lot. I don't know if you have, Spencer.
No, you're totally right. I don't bonus new employees. They've gotta go through a trial time period. I don't bonus brand new to dental people for at least a year. You've got to become competent. You've got to become like skilled, and dental's got to become your thing, not just your job. One person made it past this trial period, but I still wasn't impressed. And so I'm just like, you're not going to bonus yet because I'm not impressed by your standard. She shortly left. And so I'm just like, great, I didn't waste my money on her. So, when people do bring it up with negativity, and I don't want to dwell on this for too much longer because I think the main bonus thing has been like, hashed out pretty good, is that if they're being super negative about it and they're being negative about it shortly thereafter, there's going to be a consistency with that. And so you should just learn to be like done with it. Like, okay, this person just doesn't appreciate what's going on. They're making higher than market value in their hourly, and this is all just an add-on. I put into my office manual under compensation and talking about the bonus, and I say, this is a benefit. This is not a guaranteed. This is out of profit, and if you invest into something, there must be profit in order for distributions to happen. So this is teaching you how an investment works, and your investment is MCD. It is this office, and just like an investor in anything, you are going to benefit when we do more. And when we don't do more, you're going to still get your base. And I do not anticipate any negative talk about this bonus. Like, I even wrote it into the office manual, and I like direct people to that. And I just say, hey, you're talking crap about the bonus. I want you to refer to our office manual where it says this is not to be talked about, because you don't see things from the lens that I see them when I'm looking at all the numbers, and I want to make sure that it works out. And so when it doesn't work out, you still get your standard your guarantee, and you will get that guarantee anywhere you are in the marketplace. So let's work harder. Let's be more synergistic. Let's be more positive about doing more. And as long as you're with me on that, then let's keep going. One person that is currently in my practice was pretty negative a few times about it, and she has learned to just be like, okay, I get it, Dr. Greer, he's got me when this works out. And she has not been negative about it for over a year. Like it's been really good. So just because they're like that doesn't mean they can't change. But then again, you've got to be consistent. So
Okay, so you had said something interesting in there too about like they don't see it through the same lens you do. So do you want to share too, like going through the numbers of your practice, having two really profitable practices, what are some of the things that you look at a ton of things, right? You look at 1,000 different things, but what are some of the things over the last, I don't know, 5, 8, whatever years that you've had the practices where you're like, if these are consistently good, then I know my practice is running well.
We all know Eric wants more friends. If you're enjoying this episode, share the podcast and then tell them to DM Eric so he can hit his quota of 1 new friend per day. Now back to the episode.
So new patients gotta stay within my realm. In one office that is PPO, I've got to have at least 40 new patients. In my other practice that accepts Medicaid as well, we have like over 110. So I don't look at those as the same. I don't compare them because Medicaid has such a low barrier to entry.
Yep.
What else needs to be the same is, our treatment planning. I made sure that our treatment planning was consistent. Treatment planning should be 3x of what your goal production should be. So if you want to produce 100 grand, then you should treatment plan at least 300 grand. Number of crowns. So you look at how many crowns that you are doing per month, and when it's a drastic drop, then that means that most likely you are not delivering the value of what a crown should deliver for that patient. So it doesn't mean that you're it doesn't mean that less opportunities are coming through. Usually, being a numbers game, we have plenty of those teeth coming through our offices. And so if your average is 60 crowns per month and then all of a sudden you see it at 37, you're thinking, okay, why are we not talking about how valuable a crown is to these patients, and let's rehash on that. Those are some of the biggest things that we got to really measure. A distant fourth place would be ortho. If we're not getting ortho cases accepted, let's say our average is 4 per month, and then we get 0 a few times, that reminds us we really need to be bringing that up more often.
What did you, Alex?
Oh gosh. So as like a new owner going in and with a startup, it's like every KPI is important. Like everything. I'm going to look at each one. They have to be fall in a range, and if they're not in a range, it's
well, yeah, you got to set
like,
a baseline, right?
Yeah, kind of, but I mean, yeah. But I think what's good is that you kind of narrow it down to like, these are the ones that move the needle. Like, you don't need to be looking at a bunch of these other secondary, I guess, KPIs. Like,
It's
you still
an 80-20.
need to have yeah, exactly. You need to have like a pulse on it to make sure it's like, geez, my collection rate's like shit, like what happened, and it's because of this thing and someone's not doing whatever. So yeah, I looked at collection rate, I looked at cancellations, I'd look at all the other little ones too, but yeah, new patients treatment percentage, case acceptance. Yeah.
Okay, so here's one we're dealing with right now at the office, and maybe you guys can help me work through this one. And it's related to hygiene, right? So as people on the podcast probably know, like Spencer and I we're both part of like the same DSO or group, right? And they came and they're making a big push this year on increasing hygiene production, right? That's one of their, I guess, big goals, right? And so obviously they're going to each office and they're saying, what are your guys' numbers? So with ours at one of our locations, or actually it's at both of them, but I work mainly at one, they were like, your hygiene numbers aren't strong, right? The amount, and what they're saying is the amount that your hygienist does per day in production is too low, right? I think I forgot what they said the average they wanted it to be, whether it was like maybe it was 1,200, 1,300 a day, somewhere around there. But we had a situation where, they're lower. And a lot of that is related. Well, it's related to twofold, right? It's looking at, perio diagnosis rate. And if that's low, it's not doing as much of the 4346 code, which if people don't know is kind of like think of that as like your bloody prophy, like that in between, like they're not fully healthy, but then they're not full deep cleaning. And then the other part was the show rate and the cancellation rate. And we were having a lot of gaps in our hygiene schedule. And so those were the challenges we've been having with hygiene, and we're trying to figure out how to solve those. So can you interrupt me, Spencer, since you'd like to solve problems really fast and tell me what I need to do?
I want to fully listen to you first. I'll wait until you're done.
Thanks. All right, end scene. I'm done.
Yeah, I you bring up a point. I do that during coaching too. I stop people when they're talking. I'm just like, oof, I shouldn't have done that. So, I didn't even know what 4346 was when you said that. I don't look at codes. I don't look at like, oh, you should be doing these codes more often. Fluoride is a must. It's a constant with every patient that we do. We are over 90% fluoride in our office. So
I'm going to interrupt you because
don't
our numbers.
interrupt me ever.
I know
while
we
I'm
just
talking.
we just did our actual meeting actually yesterday, and it dropped down to 50% in hygiene, and we used to be at like 80 to 85%, and so that's one that we're kind of diving into. But yeah, okay, so you're up to 90%.
All right. So do you have 2 columns of hygiene in that office?
Yeah.
All right. So you're hoping for...
Wait. We have... Each hygienist has a column. They don't run like
They're
accelerated.
not assisted. Yeah.
Exactly. So you've got 15 or so hygiene patients per day.
A day? Yeah. I mean, we run 3 long days, right? So they usually have like 10-ish appointments. So yeah, there's like about 20 maybe in a working day.
Okay. So that means your fluoride dropped from typically 16 applications per day to 10 applications.
Yeah.
So what's your fluoride fee? 30?
35.
35. Great price. So 35 times 6, you're looking at about $200. $200 per day, and you're open 5 days a week?
3.
4? Oh, 3. Okay.
Yeah, I got to maintain that golf schedule. Yeah, no, I don't golf at all.
Yeah, that beard shows me you do not golf.
Yeah, I don't golf.
So, 600, 4 weeks. So you're looking at $2,500 per month just on fluoride of what you used to do versus what you're not doing. $2,500.
Yeah, and I mean that's mostly like if we're talking numbers, that's mostly all pure profit too, right?
30,
like you're not...
That's $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the very first place that you start. I mean, actually, I would say making sure that people stick with their, you have somebody dedicated to scheduling and fill in those schedules. That should be priority. Yeah. And so if that's not happening, then you increase your staffing or improve your staffing somehow to make sure that that is absolutely paramount, biggest priority for their day. And then getting those fluoride numbers up, and then also just making sure that they are coding coding perio when there is perio. So if that means that you're looking at x-rays and just being like, I see some calculus, what's the deal here? Or I see some, lower bone levels, what's the deal there? Why didn't we schedule like a perio appointment instead of prophy? That would be important for you as the doctor to just calibrate that. I would say those are the top 3. I don't look at codes other than like, man, there's a lot of prophies, right? I don't really think scaling 1 to 3 or scaling 4+. I don't look at scaling in the presence of inflammation. I don't really pay attention to those too much just because that's not really my attention span. I'm kind of 80-20, like I said. But I do bonus my hygienists based on their production. Not everybody wants a bonus, and so it's not going to work on everybody. But if I say, hey, you can make several $100s more per month or a few thousand more per month, that's really going to move the needle for some of those hygienists. That's not really... I don't really want to dive into that much more today, but I think that focusing on those three things first will be way bigger for you than implementing some sort of hygiene bonus commission.
So I mean, is that a good lesson? So kind of what I was getting from what you were saying, and you're like, hey, I don't even know the 4346 code, right? Like I don't track all that stuff. I think, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, Alex, is some of us get so in the weeds on like everything, right? And it's like, I need to know every lever to pull. I need to know every cheat code, whatever that is, right? Like in order to make my practice more profitable. And you try to find every single thing you can do. Did you used to do that when you first started? And have you learned as growing as like, as a leader, having your practices up to a certain level that it's more valuable to just focus on a few things and do those well, almost like the Chick-fil-A model of stuff, like do a few things and do them better than anyone else, and that's fine. You don't need to. They probably focus on a lot of metrics too, but like they have their core things they're known for, right? I feel like that's the vibe I'm getting from you, is that you've kind of transitioned into this like, these are the core things we do well, and we are gonna just bash those in, and that's what I want my team to know.
Yeah, you're right. Looking at the overall office production number all the time for the month and for the day are huge for me. Um, l- I have the hygienist report to me their end of month numbers, and so they can see where they stack in comparison to where they should report. So let's say a hygienist never makes her bonus, but she's at least reporting to me, man, I produced 4,000 less than I should have this month. I produced 6,000 less than I should have this month. And she's seeing that consistency. And then I'm going to be like, why are you producing so little? Like on your reports, I'm seeing 3 months constantly that you're not hitting this basic metric that I want you to hit. Now, I'm still going to employ this person. I'm not going to think of firing them, reducing their hours because of how important hygiene is to have in our office. But still, I want them seeing you're not making it financially worth your wage. Don't you dare think of asking for a raise anytime soon. Like this is definitely something where you're not getting any leverage at all. So I mean, a hygienist came to me and asked for a raise several months ago. And I just think, yeah, you're bonusing every month, so let's just do it. Let's just make it a guarantee rather than a commission. So having those big picture things for me has been really crucial, rather than just nitpicking every little thing, every little detail. Because if you focus on your big picture, then it's going to lead you to really orchestrate in the things that matter the most. So let's say, for example, you're really nitpicking hygiene. However, your doctor production is super low. Okay, what's the max that a hygienist can produce per day? Let's call it 2,500. Now, yes, there's people that can SRP like crazy and do like 4,000. Let's just call it 2,500. And you're really working hard on getting your hygienist of just like hitting that number, maybe once a week. Okay, what about you as a doctor diagnosing how to restore missing teeth, getting those cracked amalgams crowned, really getting the value of the doctor production? So here you were nitpicking all of the hygiene numbers where your potential in doctor production is 8x or whatever. So really making sure that you're keeping your priorities straight of where's my attention going to have the highest impact.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. I mean, like I said, this last month I've had to focus more on being at the office more, being more clinical, and then trying to diagnose appropriately and focusing on that, right? And seeing the things that maybe you need to see, right? And seeing that big metal filling, or that filling that has, half an amalgam on it and half a composite, and there's a little bit of recurrent decay on one part, like that's a crown, right? Like that's not another 3-surface filling on like a small tooth already. And our office production in February is probably like 30 or 40% higher than it was the previous February, right? But the one thing I focused on was my production and making sure I was focused, and present when I was in those exams and doing more of those exams. And so, yeah, it brought everything up.
There you
Right.
go.
So, yeah.
There you go. I think that if you just show your hygienist a simple spreadsheet and just be like, could you fill this out at the end of the month? It'll help your hygienist to see their opportunity of where they can do some more.
Yeah.
And that could probably take care of what you're asking and what your DSO is asking you to kind of manage a little bit better. Just have them track it and just say, oh, okay, well, your goal was to produce 23,000 and you only produced 17,000. So opportunities, where do you think that we can make up for that? You know, and then you'll either hear excuses or, you know, possible results.
Yeah. Nice.
There you go.
I know. This is awesome. It's good just to kind of go through that stuff. I think our listeners will get a bunch of good information on, like, you know, someone who's actually done it, right? And has, you know, a few really profitable practices. And I think it's cool to kind of switch it into like what the dentist can do versus the office. So I'm sure as we were talking through this, there was like 10 more things I started to think of, and obviously I'll start to bore everyone if I keep on talking. So we'll have to do like a part 2 on this, or come up with another topic on it and see the feedback we get on this and go.
Yeah, one of my biggest things that I want to say is hire people that you like, and then keep those people that you like, because if you see somebody who's kind of lame and you just say, man, I don't know, but at least they're a warm body. If you like the person and you think that this person is contributing well to the people around them, with their positivity, with their good personality, and you just see that they have good standards and their limited drama, right? To bonus that person is a delight. Seeing that person win is fun. And when they get a bonus check that's over $1,000, and they deserved it, it's not you out of your charity, it's you out of your, you know, mindful numbers. It's really cool. And then that person will be like, hey, I've never gotten a bonus this big. This is really cool. And some of them will thank you, and it's going to feel really, really great. And you know that because they're bringing their goodness to your office, you want this office to serve as a goodness vehicle to those people as well. And it's just a fun cycle to be a part of. So really try to bring in those people that you like and that you like being around, that you respect. I mean, there's some people that just have so much drama at home and you think, man, where is this bonus money even going? Right? I don't want to serve that. So take that for what it is. I know some people will be like, how can I know? And, you know, you can only, whatever. That's just something that I've lived by and has worked really well for me. And having really great people. I did have a couple time periods of high turnover. And I've learned some lessons along the way. And I've learned how to have less turnover, have more stability, and serving those people just feels really great.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Spencer.
All right, guys. Good luck with your 10 listeners.
Yeah.